Good afternoon. Welcome to the AgrAbility webinar series. My name is Paul Jones, and I manage the National AgrAbility Project located at Purdue University within the Breaking New Ground Resource Center. Today our topic is regarding visual impairments and their relevance to agriculture. Before we get started with the actual presentation, I have just a few instructions for you. You do need speakers or headphones to hear the presentation, as we're not using a phone connection. If you'd like to check your connection speed, you may do so under the meeting menu and the Manage My Settings option there. Dial-up is not recommended, and you probably will not be able to participate if you use dial-up. If you have questions during the presentation about the content, please feel free to type those in the chat window, and we will be addressing those at the end. Also, if you do have a webcam or microphone, you can raise your hand at the end, and we will be taking questions audibly if you would prefer that. We will activate your microphone at the point that you raise your hand. We do have 4 quick survey questions at the end of the webinar, so if you'd please stick around and answer those. We are recording this session today, and it will be archived along with the PowerPoint file and the resources at the address listed on your screen. In fact, if you would like to go ahead and click that, we already have the PowerPoint on the screen, or excuse me, on that site, along with approximately 12 resources related to this topic. So you might want to go ahead and check that site. Also, you might want to open the email address listed below. In case you have problems during the webinar and you're not able to use the chat window, if you do have any technical issues, please use the chat window first. If that does not work for you, please use that email address listed on your screen. A few possible problems that we've had in the past, we alert you to. At times we have had a disconnection with our presenters. In this case, they are remote from our current location. So if that's the case, if we do have any problems disconnecting from our presenters, please just hold on. We will reconnect as quickly as possible. And if you are disconnected as a participant, please just log in again. That's the best solution for that issue at this point. For those that are not familiar with AgrAbility, we are sponsored by the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and we focus on working with farmers, ranchers, and other agricultural workers that have some type of disability. It may range from spinal cord injuries to arthritis to amputations, and in this case, visual impairments. Every AgrAbility project is a partnership between the land-grant university and the state and at least one disability services organization. Currently, there are 23 projects covering 25 states. Again, the national project is led by Purdue's Breaking New Ground Resource Center, and Goodwill of the Finger Lakes, who is participating as presenters in this webinar, are one of the funded partners on the national project. If you would like more information about AgrAbility, or you'd like to see if your state has an AgrAbility project, just go to the www.agrability.org website. At this point, I'm going to turn things over to the staff at ABVI Goodwill of the Finger Lakes in New York, and they will provide the body of the presentation. At the end, I will come back for the poll questions and our question and answer period. We may need to work out a couple of audio issues here, so please be patient as we're getting started, and we will try to get into the actual content of the webinar as soon as we can.
Good afternoon. I'm Nikki Llewellyn from ABVI Goodwill in Rochester, New York. We have 2 other presenters, Sharon Schwam and Chris Frank. I'd like to give you a little bit of my background with agriculture. I grew up with my grandparents having a farm, cattle, chickens. And so until about the age of 10, I spent 3 or 4 days a week on a farm. I also worked for a migrant education program where I coordinated education, health, and fine arts services to migrant farm workers and the farmers that they work for. So I have a little bit of background with farming and agriculture. ABBI is the Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired in Rochester, New York. We serve a 9-county region, and we provide comprehensive rehabilitation services. We provide some agency-based services as well as itinerant services. We have some resources linked to this webinar, and they will have resources for you to contact and find out your state agency. The mission statement of ABBI is to prepare and empower people who are blind or visually impaired to be self-sufficient and contribute to their families and communities. I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview about the presentation. We're going to talk about what is vision rehabilitation, aspects of vision, definition of legal blindness, orientation and mobility, vision rehab therapy, and adaptive technology. So, what is vision rehabilitation? Vision rehabilitation services include a wide array of professionals and services that can restore functioning after vision loss. And I want to emphasize the restoring functioning. We don't restore vision. We can possibly enhance usable vision with visional techniques or optical devices, but we don't restore vision. We help people to do things they used to do or still need to do and want to do in different ways. Vision rehabilitation agencies vary. They can have different professionals, and again, going back to your state agency, telling them what you're looking for, they can link you with the appropriate agency. Here at ABBI, we have vision rehabilitation therapists that provide training on how to adapt everyday activities. We have orientation and mobility specialists who teach people to travel safely in any environment, work, home, school, wherever, community. We have employment and training specialists to help obtain or maintain employment using individualized career services and technology. We also have low vision specialists that are specially trained doctors who examine the person's vision and recommend devices to improve the use of remaining vision. Sometimes occupational therapists are used to help work with the visual devices. We here at ABBI have the luxury of having social work and therapists to provide support through information referrals, counseling, and support groups. Again, agencies offer different services, and you just need to link up with your state office, and they can point you in the right direction for the services that you need. Okay, first we're going to talk a little bit about aspects of vision loss. First, vision is not just whether something is blurry or in focus. Much the same as blindness is not the total loss of vision. There are varying degrees of blindness. So first we're going to talk about acuity, and acuity is the blurriness of the picture. Is it in focus? Is it not in focus? Acuity is a measure of clarity at a certain distance. Sometimes you hear the term 20/20 or legal blindness is 2200, and that just means 20/20 is what is at 20 feet appears to be at 20 feet, whereas 2200 is what is at 20 feet appears to the individual to be 200 feet away, if they were viewing it from 200 feet away. Sometimes you'll see the measurements done in 10 feet, and it's just a fraction that you reduce, again, 10 over 10 or 10 over 100. is the same as 20/200. With acuity, normally glasses are what are recommended to bring things into focus and to correct acuity problems, but there are some visual conditions that glasses just can't correct the problem. And so that's when we come into magnification. And something about magnification, you need to know that the strongest magnifier is not necessarily the best magnifier, because magnification, the higher the power of magnification, the smaller the viewing field. So you can have a full page magnified at 2 times, but you can't get a full page, a magnifier to do a full page at anything really more than 2 times. When you have a 10x magnifier magnifying something 10 times, you're going to have a very small viewing field where you might only get one word or a few letters of the word. So magnification, again, you have to work with the rehab teachers or sometimes the occupational therapist to determine what is the best magnification for the task that you need to do. So it's very individualized. And a reduced acuity can present as someone squinting or just kind of moving their head forward to try and see things better. In addition to acuity, another aspect of vision is visual field. And visual field is how much of the picture do you see. Normally, with people have about 170 degrees of vision, and a straight line is 180. So you can put your arms all the way out and just bring them in a little bit, looking straight ahead, and you can see your fingers out there. Some people have vision that's so narrow that it comes in and it's like they're looking through straws, tunnel vision. And with that, they're only going to see little bits and pieces of the picture. The way that's going to present is the person might be able to read the newspaper, they might be able to read fine print, but they don't notice anybody till they're directly in front of them because they only have that little field of vision. Sometimes the fields of view get so small that you have 2 different pictures. And what the brain does there is it either disregards one picture or it just kind of makes up what might be in the middle, and it might not be accurate. Usually the brain will disregard one picture, so you only have vision in one eye. And with vision in one eye, you have reduced depth perception. And what that means is you really can't tell how far away or how near something is. So someone might present with a peripheral field loss, overreaching, underreaching, overstepping, understepping, not seeing how deep the step is. Other people have kind of the opposite. They have peripheral vision, but they don't have central vision. Wherever they look, that is where their blind spot is. They can't look around it. And you might see people present with this as they're not identifying faces, they're not reading print, they're looking to your shoulder instead of looking right at you because they're trying to get their best picture out there in the periphery. And peripheral vision is never totally in focus. It's never 20/20, it's at best about 20/60, so that vision is a little bit blurry. Another aspect of vision loss is contrast sensitivity. And contrast refers to how well the object or viewing target stands out from the background. White on black is high contrast. White on gray has less contrast. The next slide will show you an example of that, but just a little bit more on contrast sensitivity. Contrast sensitivity tests measure size and contrast. You might be able to see 20/20 on an eye chart, but most eye charts are really bold black on white. So that gives you an acuity. But in real life, if you have reduced contrast sensitivity, that might not be right. You might not have the 20/20 vision or whatever. You see less. A person with low contrast sensitivity may not see things like the flame on the stove, or be able to tell which light is lit at a traffic light. Sometimes extra lighting helps, sometimes it doesn't. Here's an example of very poor contrast, and then an example of good contrast. Definitions of blindness. Visual impairment is any degree of vision loss that impacts an individual's daily activities. 2070 is a measurement used to indicate visual impairment and may qualify the individual to receive services from a state agency. Blindness. Legal blindness, the definition was altered a little bit in 2007, but the old version was acuity with a measurement of 2200 or worse, because all the old eye charts used to go 2100, and then the next line was 2200. Then they came up with new eye charts that had finer increments. So they went 2100, 2120, and so we had people that, depending on the eye chart, maybe they were legally blind, maybe they weren't. So in 2007, the Social Security Administration decided that 2200 or worse, or if you can't read anything on the 2100 line. That's the acuity measurement for blindness. You can also be declared legally blind based on your visual field. So if you have a visual field of less than 10 degrees from center, so very narrow visual fields, all the way around 10 degrees, so really it's 20 degrees wide because it's 10 degrees all around. If your vision loss is less than 10 degrees from center, you can be declared legally blind. Other things you might hear regarding blindness is light perception and LP. LP can refer to light perception or to light projection. Light perception is, can the individual tell if the light is on or off? Light projection is, can the individual tell where the light source is? And that's a big difference. If a person can tell where the light source is, that can be used as a clue to guide them towards something. You might also see on some eye report NLP, and that generally stands for no light perception. It could be no light projection, but usually no light perception. The individual cannot tell whether lights are on or off. Now we're going to talk a little bit about orientation and mobility. And I'm a certified orientation and mobility specialist. I teach safe, independent travel in any environment. I work with people at jobs, at home, in the community. I have worked with some people on their farms, orient students to colleges, that sort of thing. I also teach people how to use various devices, support cane, long cane, teach them orientation techniques, how to maintain their orientation, or if it's a new environment, to orient them to the environment, and also how to access different types of public transportation. Usually a master's degree is required for orientation and mobility, and we are not currently licensed, but we do have a certifying body, and that's just listed there for your information. There are also mobility instructors or travel instructors specifically trained by the National Federation of the Blind to teach independent travel techniques, using a long cane, orientation techniques, how to use transportation. Orientation mobility. The orientation piece of orientation and mobility is the difficult piece. It's, do you know where you are in relationship to other people, places, or things? And if you're not hardwired to know directions and that sort of thing, you can have a very difficult time with orientation. Mobility is generally the easier piece. That's how is a person going to move? Are they going to use their vision? Are they going to use vision in a mobility device like a cane? Are they going to hold someone's arm? Are they going to trail a surface? Mobility is the movement piece. There are various tools, and we'll talk about those. But first, I just wanted to show you a couple of items that you can buy, you know, at Walmart or anywhere. The first are called yak tracks, and they go on the bottom of your shoe to add traction. And generally, people use them in snow. Sometimes when the leaves fall and they're really starting to get broken down, kind of rotting, they get awfully slippery. But you could use these in a place like a barn where the floors are more slippery. They fit right on over your regular shoes. The other thing is just a reflective safety vest. And this can be used so that you have it on if you're out walking along the road or you're near the road. It makes you more visible. It doesn't help you to see more, but it helps others to see you. And sometimes I've had people that do work outside have their coworkers wear one of these so they can see the coworkers in their locations. These items, this is a support cane marked white to indicate legal blindness. It's an adjustable orthopedic support cane. Very good. It's got a ice spike attached to it, and it's got 5 little prongs. You flip it down when you need that extra traction in ice or slippery conditions, and then again it can flip up out of the way so you can use the cane indoors as well. These are some more orientation mobility tools. We use them to enhance vision, make things easier to see. We've got sunglasses, we have tape. You might also get a telescope. You could learn visual techniques such as scanning something or tracking something. The colored sunglasses, there is a reference resource at the end, No IR Technologies. You can order these glasses in various colors, and each color comes in a light, medium, dark tint, and they fit over your regular prescription lenses, so you don't have to get different lenses. I've had people that have used the yellow or orange lenses to heighten contrast, working, maybe mowing their lawn. They can't see the path they mowed, but with the yellow or orange glasses, they can see that path more easily. I had a couple people who could actually distinguish plants from weeds with the glasses, but not without them. So they're just a really handy tool. You want to reduce the glare. A lot of people have photophobia, which is sensitivity to bright light, and so they might even wear some of these inside. The contrasting tape, this can be used in a lot of areas. Quite often I'll use it just 1 inch on the lip and the rise of a stair. And I don't mark every step because then it can be like an optical illusion. But if you mark the first and the last step, usually all the other steps are the same height, and those are the steps that count. You want to make sure you pick up the first one and the last one. The blue tape in the center is just regular painter's tape, and where I might use that is just along the edge of a door. To be safe, doors should be all the way open or all the way closed. But sometimes they get left open, sometimes they have to be left open. But the individual might not see that the door is open and just run right into it. So if you add just that contrasting painter's tape along the edge of the door, it can help someone see it. This is a picture of somebody using a long cane. And you use a long cane to preview the environment and to protect the user from the waist down. Here you see the cane extended out. It's about 2 strides away. You want the cane to be out there far enough to provide reaction time. So you want at least 2 steps. Your cane drops off a surface. You want to have some time to react. You use the cane to preview the environment. You use the cane for identification. People will come to your aid much more quickly if you have the white cane than if you don't, if you're in a shopping center, something like that. There are folding and rigid canes for outdoor use. I usually have people get a rigid cane because it does not It won't break as easily, but if you're going to be going inside, outside, using the cane a little bit, not using it, a folding cane is a good cane. I even have cane holsters. You can get cane holsters and fold the cane up, put it in the holsters when you're not using it, and then when you need it, you have it right with you. And there are various cane tips for different surfaces. Two other orientation and mobility tools are dog guides, which are dogs that receive special training from one of the nationally recognized dog guide schools. And dog guides are just one part of the team. The user must maintain control of the dog and must maintain their own orientation. They tell the dog where to go. The user gives the commands and the dog follows the commands. The dog is to take the user from one point to the next, negotiating around obstacles. There are other devices you can use, electronic devices. There are sonar devices that detect obstacles and drop-offs. So when something is 8 feet away from you, you might get a beep or a buzz like beep, beep. But then when you're within 3 to 4 feet of it, you get a stronger vibration or a beep, 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 so you know it's closer. Those are good for obstacles from the waist up. Usually you wear the device just kind of on a strap around your neck. It's centered mid-chest. It protects you from the waist up because the cane will protect you from the waist down. I've used those devices for people who work in wooded areas, people who like to camp for enjoyment. They're using their cane, they're looking around, enjoying things, but they're not really paying attention to some of those low-hanging branches. So that's where these devices come in quite handy. There are talking compasses, which will help you just maintain your cardinal directions, north, south, east, west. And then we have GPS systems, which they're on people's phones. They're very useful. You know, 10 years ago, a GPS system for the blind, you actually wore a backpack with a big device in the back, and now you can just have it in your pocket, and they're really useful. You can put in your destination, your home destination, mark it, and then if you got lost, you can use your GPS to find your way back home. So they're really useful devices. Now I'm just going to give you some general orientation mobility tips. The first ones are in regard to orientation. And the first one is a guide wire. And you can just run it, and rather than having to hold on to the guide wire, what I like to do is make a loop of a cable, something like that, that goes around the wire. So you can just slip your hand through the loop and move along and still use your hands for other things. Another thing is to create a guideline down on the ground. And you can do this with big rocks, or I've actually had people use bowling balls that they got from a bowling facility because they have to get rid of those bowling balls with the big divots and everything in them. And so they got bowling balls and painted them a contrasting color and made a path for them to follow with a cane. Another thing is to make paths in the ground, like with gravel, a gravel path, or I've had some people who actually mow a path through an area, and along the sides they let the grass or whatever's growing there, you know, grow waist high or whatever, but they have their path that keeps them on the path. Inside you can also use non-slip treads, so you can feel it underfoot, even with boots on. And there is a rubberized kind of paint that you can put down, and you put it down really thick, and it dries with like ridges in it, so you can follow that inside. Next, we're going to talk about some things you do visually. So you can use a bright light as a landmark. I talked about light perception and light projection. If you can see the light, you can go towards it. One thing you want to do is before you get lost, when you're having a good vision day, look to the skyline, see what you can see, so that if you do get lost somewhere and you're away from some buildings, you can kind of get your directions that way. I've had people use brightly colored bicycle flags on tall poles to mark locations. Again, you can use a compass to maintain your orientation and the GPS on your phone. Another thing is having that long cane in a holster or pouch so you can use it. You can use it to check depth, use color contrast, like I said, with the tapes to mark steps or drop-offs. To determine the best contrast, what I've done is taken a bunch of small boards, almost like paint stirrer sticks, painted them in different colors, and then when I'm at someone's home, I can just put those down and see which one they can see best against the surface. So it's kind of like a little contrast kit. Inside, I've had people run fluorescent lights overhead along a path just so they can follow the lights to get through and avoid the drop-offs on each side. General safety tips: make yourself and others more visible by wearing a reflective safety vest. Keep your hands free to assist with balance. Use a backpack to carry items. Have a head mount flashlight or one that fits behind your ear so you can keep your hands free, but it provides light where it's needed. I found those very handy when you're working under the hood of a car or when you're in a building and you need to use dials or buttons and you can lean down and get the light right on the buttons. So there are resources attached to this webinar. And now we're going to hear from vision rehabilitation therapist Sharon Schwab. Wait.
Okay. Well, I'm Sharon Schwab. My farming experience, I'm part owner of an alpaca farm in western New York State with my sister. I mainly handle the sorting and the picking of the alpaca fiber and get it ready for either to send to the co-op or to, or to a fiber mill. Several years ago, many more years ago than I care to even admit, I acquired an ASS degree in ornamental horticulture, and I worked at Harris Moran Seed Company in Rochester, New York for several years in the flower research department. As far as vision rehab therapy, a vision rehab therapist can address any challenge that someone with a vision impairment could have from the time they get up in the morning to the time they go to bed at night, including but not limited to communication and financial skills, meal and home management, personal skills and family care, recreation. Services are provided mainly in the home, but we also provide services in a work environment or out in the community. Our services and training usually starts with a functional assessment, and we work with the individual, helping them to break down each task to determine the problem area or areas. And we incorporate task analysis, which paves the way for future problem-solving techniques. We teach adaptations and recommend adaptive equipment as needed for a goal attainment. We help people to supplement their vision by the use of other senses. We show an individual ways to maximize their usable vision by reducing glare, increasing color contrast, adjusting lighting, and use of optical devices. Some cues that vision rehab therapy or vision rehab services may be needed are holding reading material up close to the face or the eyes, bending close to an object while doing an activity, difficulty locating items, or maybe difficulty or no longer performing everyday activities. A great resource that has a longer list of cues to look for you can find at www.visionaware.org. An adaptive technique may be just you change one or more of the steps involved in performing an activity to make it easier to do. You may make this change in conjunction with adaptive equipment, labeling or marking materials, lighting, color contrast, or magnification devices. As you see in the picture, I have many color contrasting items, large print check register, guideline checks, or we usually call them large print checks, bowline paper, and if you'll see, I've written milk on the bowline paper. Print is usually easier for someone that has a vision impairment to read than cursive writing. Adaptive equipment could be any item that is used to change an object to make it easier to use or to identify. And it could be as simple as using a rubber band to label something, like your shampoo versus your conditioner, or as complex as an electronic labeling device. The picture on the left shows contrasting colored bump dots, large print keyboard stickers, spot and line pen, which is a liquid plastic to mark items. And the picture on the right shows a pen friend, and the pen friend labels. On this storage box, every drawer has a pen friend label stating what's in the drawer. Or a piece of adaptive equipment may be an object that is designed or made differently so that it can be used to change how a task is performed, to make it easier for someone to complete. A great example of that are the talking watches and clocks that you see on the picture on the left, or large print or talking calendar that you see on the picture on the right. There are digital recorders that could be used to record notes in the field. Talking kitchen scales can be used to weigh feed supplements, produce, or other products. A talking indoor-outdoor thermometer can provide temperatures for in the home, greenhouse, or outside. I have used a large print and talking personal bathroom scale to weigh alpaca cria. They're the alpaca babies. One of our vision rehab therapists had a lesson with a farmer, a cow, and a clinical talking thermometer. I don't think I need to go much farther into that. I've got some other pictures of adaptive equipment. On the left, there's a picture of a talking measuring tape, and even if someone would rather use large print in low light areas, talking measuring tape would be a great adaptation. On the right, you can tell I'm an alpaca farmer. I have a talking kitchen scale weighing alpaca roving. It's what spinners use to spin to make yarn. And the large print scale on the right has alpaca yarn. I'm showing it using a magnifier, but I could have just as well used the spot and line liquid plastic and put bump dots and lines so that someone could feel to know what increment they were measuring. Skills learned for one activity may also work for other similar activities. A great example may be measuring using color contrast, or a leveling technique, or even a talking measuring cup in the kitchen can also be used out on the farm to measure feed or feed supplements for the animals. These pictures show a lot of color contrasting items. Increasing color contrast can improve one's visual performance. The shovel on the left was sprayed with a Rust-Oleum or metal affixing paint to make it stand out. The picture on the right shows a lot of different items that can be purchased in regular hardware stores. From the large print tape measure and bright colored yardstick to the multi-purpose rubber dip that is the pliers have one handle that is coated with the multi-purpose rubber dip. That's the blue handle. The other handle, I just wrapped some bright colored tape around it to make it more visible. More color contrast. Picture on the left are just some items that you can buy in a regular hardware store that are really bright in color, and some of the farmers and people that you work with may already have some of these items. And on the left, big button or large print phones, the large print is great color contrast, and the portable phone also has the talkback keypad. Glare can be an issue, both indoors and out. Try sitting with your back to a window during indoor activities, and wear hats, caps, or visors and sunglasses while inside or outside. Avoid bare light bulbs. One may feel that it does increase light, but it also increases glare. And if needed, anti-glare window film, shades, or blinds can be used on the windows. Use flat or matte finishes on furniture in the office or in the home. And carpets and non-slip floor finishes help to diffuse light and reduce the glare. Everyone's lighting needs are different. As Nikki talked about, someone could be photophobic or sensitive to light, but at the same time need a combination of room and task lighting. Some may also feel that there's not enough light. It's just very imperative that an individual lighting evaluation of the home, barn, and storage buildings be done. The pictures show a wide variety of different powered hand and stand magnifiers. Based on the curvature of the lens, the smaller the lens, the stronger the magnifier. Other optical devices may be spectacles, binoculars, or monoculars for distance and near tasks. As a vision rehab therapist, we do work with people to use the optical devices that are recommended in the low vision evaluation. Organization is key to avoid lost items. So when you're setting up for a project or while you're working with the project, it's a great idea to use totes, tool buckets, color contrasting tarps or trays. Sometimes just for storage, a lazy Susan can be drilled to hold drill bits in order of size, labeled appropriately for the individual. You can use color contrasting nylon rope to replace string to mark rows for planting a garden. Whitewashed pegboard can provide a good background for color contrast when you're storing your tools. Or you could use, as I said in the past, use large print, braille, pen, or audio labels to label items in the home, barn, or storage. iOS devices have changed how we provide services. With voiceover or large print, the iPad or the iPhone can be used, as Nikki mentioned, as a GPS on the farm. There are apps for note-taking, color identification, labeling, or even money identification. You could take a picture of a plant disease, infestation, or a sore on an animal to enlarge for better identification purposes, or you can send it to the cooperative extension or email it to your vet. A vision rehab therapist model is whatever works for an individual. It is what is right for that individual. And please remember that everyone is different. One size does not fit all. Everyone will be different on what will work for them. The next speaker will be Chris Frank.
Hello. All right, so my name is Chris Frank. I'm an adaptive technology instructor. And so basically what that means is I help folks who are blind or visually impaired to be able to get jobs or keep their jobs using technology, different types of technology. So it might be on computers or closed circuit televisions used to magnify things electronically. I do as well have a background in farming, summers during college, and then for 2 years after I graduated college, I built pig barns throughout central Pennsylvania and New York. Also built some dairy barns and horse barns as well. So I've gotten to be in those barns with 2,000 hogs and do some repairs and build new barns there. So just to kind of give you an overview of what adaptive technology is, devices or software that allows a person to access information in print or electronic format. So a lot of what I would be focusing on is the home office, maybe for the farm, and maybe it's accessing doing the budgeting and the finances, doing the books, payroll, those kinds of things. Somebody with a visual impairment may have difficulty using that kind of software on a computer, or seeing it if they still print it out in a ledger book. Some cues that a person may need adaptive technology if they're using a computer and they need to sit really close to the monitor, or they're squinting, or they, after a period of time of using it, get headaches or eye aches. Contrast versus enlargement. So Nikki and Sharon have both talked about the importance of contrast. Contrast, when used on a computer, proper contrast can reduce eye strain over time. So a lot of times what we'll do, what will work great for somebody right off the bat, is instead of having black text on a white background like in a Word document, we reduce the colors so they've got a white text on a black background that cuts all that white screen glare out for them and can really reduce the eye strain over time. Enlargement allows more information to be seen. Well, it allows the information that's on your monitor to be seen larger. So something that appears as 2 inches might get to be blown up to 4, 5, 6 inches. However, you got to remember that the larger you make something on the screen, it reduces the total amount of information on the screen. So if you've got a document and you can see 100 words normally on the document, you magnify it 2, 4, 6 times, you might only be able to see a half dozen words of the document on the screen at a given time. Next, here's some devices. These are the CCTVs that I talked about, closed circuit televisions. Two main types, desktop and portable. In the desktop ones that are seen here, both you can sit on a desk. It's basically a monitor with a camera, oftentimes a light built right into the device as well. You can put a paper underneath and magnify it. Like you see in the examples in the picture on the left, the one CCTV has white text on a black background. The other one, we've changed the color contrast to be yellow text on a blue background, because sometimes different color combinations work better for different people. You can see one major difference I want to point out in these two devices. The device on the left of the monitor sits very close to the user's face, and for some people they really need that. They need to be very close to be able to see what's on there. And the one on the right would sit further back. It takes up a lot less room on the desk, and it sits back on the desk for people who don't need or want a monitor to be right up close to their face. Of course, these are multi-purpose devices, and we've had people who use it to cut their fingernails or do all sorts of things. It'll magnify whatever you put underneath the camera. The compact portable devices shown in the picture on the right are typically about the size of a cell phone, usually, maybe a chunkier, bigger size cell phone. Some of them come with handles. They all do about the same thing. They enlarge text on a document. They can change the color contrast. Many of them can snap a photo or a freeze frame of what's in view. So maybe I'm using the compact portable CCTV on my budget. I snap a picture of the number or the ledger account that I'm looking at, and then I can take it and I can have that number available to me while I'm putting it in somewhere else, in large print. Next, we're going to talk about adaptive software. So this is a large part of what my job is at ABVI, is teaching people how to use this different specialized software that you can put on a computer to magnify, change the color contrast. You can see in the picture on the left down there is a picture of a spreadsheet from Excel without any kinds of enhancements at all. The picture on the right is that same spreadsheet, but at about 4x magnification. So you can see it comes up much clearer, bigger, bolder mouse pointer, bigger, bolder wedges over the cursor to be able to track that. So there's a lot of things you can do. And I would encourage you explore the operating system of the computer that the person is using. Look for, in Windows 7 or Windows 8, the Ease of Access Center. Look for display properties and personalization. You can change a lot of the basic settings, increasing icon size, increasing the size of text and font. So there's a lot that you can do without buying extra software because, of course, this software can get expensive. This is just an example of a large monitor. And so a large monitor does incrementally increase the size of what's being displayed on the monitor. Really what you get is more real estate. So you've got a lot more information that can be seen on the monitor at higher levels of magnification. But larger isn't always better. For somebody who's got a narrow cone of vision, a large monitor just is more area to get lost in. So a lot of times for those folks, really focusing on maybe a low level of magnification with good contrast that really works for the person is the best way to go. Portable devices, as Sharon mentioned, iPhones, iPads. You can see in this picture I've got a document on the right and I've got an iPad, and basically all I did was I took a picture of the document with the iPad, turned on the reverse colors that come standard on any iOS device that you can get through the accessibility menu, and then I used Zoom, which once again is right in the accessibility menu in the general settings of any iOS device, and zoomed it in. And so it's bigger, it's in reverse contrast, and it looks great, and it can be a real big help for folks. This same technology is available on an iPhone, so if a farmer's in a field and he can take a picture of a dull blade or a serial number on something, and then he takes the picture, magnifies it, reverses the color so he can see it better, and then not only does he have it right there, but then he can email it out like Sharon was talking about. So look for on the devices, whether it's an Android device or an iOS device from Apple, the ability to reverse colors, to zoom in, make the text larger, or have it speak. So on the iOS devices, that's called VoiceOver. There are honestly not as much standard accessibility features on the Android devices right now. In conclusion, it's not my first bullet point up here, but we certainly want to stress first and foremost to protect your eyes. So please wear protective eye gear, whether you're chopping wood or just walking from one building to the next. It's what you can't see that's going to end up damaging your eyes. So protect the vision you've got. Also want to really quickly say a big thank you to Karen Funkenbush for her input and her help in putting this webinar together. We have many resources available, and I think Paul will probably let you know, or you'll be able to find it on the website. Get connected with a vision rehab agency in your region. So there are lists available in the resources on the website. You can find out who your local vision rehab agency is, get connected for services there. As Sharon and Nikki both said, remember that everybody's vision is different, so each person is different. You're going to have a customized solution, and a little change can make a big difference, so get creative. So now I'm going to turn it over to Paul, I think, for question and answer time.
Thanks very much to the ABVI Goodwill crew for that excellent presentation. I'm going to restart my camera here. Get them on. There we go. Okay. Before we start with our question and answer period, I'd like to do our 4 poll questions. Also, and if you have not just a question, but if you have a comment or a tip, something that you've tried in your work that might be relevant to what we're discussing here today, please feel free to type that tip into the chat window. Also, if you do have a webcam or a microphone and would like to ask a question or make a comment verbally, you can use the raise hand icon at the top, and we can activate your microphone that way. So I'd like to start our poll questions first with your professional affiliation. If you could please indicate your professional affiliation. If you are affiliated with an AgrAbility project to any degree, please indicate that. If not, please check the most appropriate box. It looks like we have quite a few people on today that are not affiliated with AgrAbility, which is good. And just another couple seconds and I will broadcast those results and close this poll. So about approximately half AgrAbility and about half that are not AgrAbility. The next question asks about the information that was shared today. If you could please let us know whether you felt the session was valuable and met your expectations in regard to the information. We'd appreciate that. And I will broadcast the results in just a moment here. Okay. Thank you for your input on that. The next poll asks about the technology. If you could go ahead and indicate whether you felt it was appropriate, it was effective. Appreciate your input on that. If you did have any specific issues in regard to technology, we'd appreciate your feedback in the chat window so that we can look at correcting those specific problems in the future. So I will broadcast those results. Thank you for your input on that. And our final poll question. Looks like people have already started on. Based on today's session, I would attend another session in this series. Okay, thank you for your feedback on that question. Cliff is going to, Cliff, our IT specialist, is going to put the questions in the chat window. At the end, I will share my screen to show you the page where the other resources are located in regard to this webinar. So if you could stick around after we actually end the question and answer period, you'll be able to see where those are located on the agrability.org website. So I will go ahead and close my camera and microphone at this point.
also, she doesn't recommend yak tracks in a barn, slippery on concrete surface, less traction of work boots.
I can agree with that.
Yeah, sometimes the egg tracks can be slippery on certain surfaces like the barn floor because there's more buildup there than you find out on the streets or something. Okay. Rick Geringer from Wyoming says, Restore, found at Home Depot, makes a good non-slip surface for ramps. And I'll be trying that. How does a pen friend work?
Oh, I can show you.
Grab your pen friend, Sharon. There you go.
Okay. All right. The pen friend, I don't know what it is. Okay. I'm just going to turn it on. It does a beep. If I held the record button down and then press it to the label, it bongs. And once it bongs, I can, now it's not recording my voice, so I could say carriage bolts. Then I let go of the button. It bongs. And once it bongs, I can, now it's not recording my voice, so I could say carriage bolts. So you could do up to 70 hours of labels with the pen friend, and it comes with a USB cable to download it to your computer. Okay, I need someone else to sit here probably.
BRT in your area, you can contact an occupational therapist.
You should be able to, yes.
So read the question.
If there's not a BRT in your area, you can contact an occupational therapist for help in this area or with this equipment as well. And that is true. There are BRTs that have specialized training.
OTs. There
What
are,
did I say?
Yeah,
Oh,
there are OTs that have specialized training in low vision therapy.
Right.
The last question, read the last one.
Will there be any presentation at the National Training Workshop on visual impairments? I can say, I hope so.
Oh, yeah.
I hope so.
That was the last question. Thank you, everybody.
ABVI. And again, I will share my screen here with you. One more question? Okay, go ahead and. So, just for those that are still on, try to get that shared there. If you go to the archived webinar page at www.agrability.org, that's www.agrability.org/online-training/archived. You will see a number of resources in addition to the PowerPoint, ranging from a human guide booklet to common eye conditions, a variety of tip sheets and signs of vision loss, fact sheets, tips and techniques handouts, even some guides about using Windows 2000 for accessibility. So we will plan to get the actual recording of the webinar up this afternoon, but feel free to check out that page, and you can download those PDFs at any point if you'd like additional information. Again, we'd like to thank both our participants, those that are on the line today, and also our presenters at ABVI Goodwill in Rochester, New York. Our next webinar that we're planning at this point is in regard to core competencies, and we're looking at the approximately the third week in March, but we will send out more information on that. So again, thank you for participating, and have a good day.